Hello, my name is Cher Grieving, and this is my module for EDL 850 on tort liability. The definition of tort liability describes a violation when one person causes damage to another person, and the violation may result from intentional actions or non-intentional actions. The party that commits the tort may become subject to consequences, court rulings that issue them to reimburse the victim for the harm that they have caused. My first court case is Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. In this court case, a teacher was negligent in recording an absentee of a student in her classroom. The student did not show up for sixth hour, and the teacher asked around to the rest of the class if they knew where the student was at and marked down that she was absent, but then did not follow up with the office or with the parents until later. What actually happened was the female student walked home with the male student during the school day and engaged in sexual acts, and later the parents filed for sexual assault on the other student. My reactive measures in this court case: the classroom teacher did not take the appropriate measures to ensure that the student was safe when she did not show up. Instead, she just asked the class if they knew anything. Proactive measures: attendance should be taken at the beginning of every class period. I think that if a student is absent, you can ask the class, but if we don't have a definite answer, I would call the office. I think that between the classroom teacher and the office, there needs to be some form of communication, whether it be a buzz on the intercom or in quick email. If you didn't know ahead of time that the student was going to be absent, I definitely think that the teacher should check in with the office just to make sure. Professional ethics: instructors should never assume. An attendance policy should be put in place so that students are accounted for throughout the school day. My second case is Johnson Johnson versus the School District of Millard. This is also a case of negligency. A first grade student was injured in music class while playing the game of London Bridges. The teacher taught the first grade class how to play London Bridge for the first time and had them engage in the game. While playing, one of the students in the middle of the bridge was swung fast and hard, and the classmates released the grip that they had on one another. The arms went flying apart, and the student went flying into the bookcase and cut his forehead and had to have 50 stitches. So the student's parents filed a case of negligence on the teacher, and the courts ruled that the teacher was in fact negligent. She must have turned her back on the class. She did turn her back on the class while they were playing. Reactive measures: it was the first time that the students were playing the game. She assumed they would play under control for the first time without horsing around, and she turned her back to write on the chalkboard. Proactive: supervision is a must when young students are singing, playing, and have their hands on one another. And I have taught elementary music before. It's very difficult because it's an unstructured classroom, and you want them to be able to get up and sing and dance and have fun. But on the other hand, when they start putting their hands on one another, students do not understand self-control at that age, and they get excited and they don't use their best judgment at times. So professional ethics: when allowing a student to do an activity that is not structured, I believe that the instructor needs to be right there paying close attention to those students who get wound up. Never should an instructor turn their back on a group of young kids playing a game when you've allowed them to put their hands on one another. My third case is a case of corporal punishment in the Daly versus Board of Education of Morrill County School District. In this court case, a teacher kept two of his students after class who were showing disrespect to him during class. They were kind of showing off and trying to get the other classmates off task. So the teacher kept the students after class and talked to them. And one of the students continued to be disrespectful to the teacher, kind of mocking the teacher. So the teacher testifies that he tapped the student on the head to get his attention, when the student testifies that he was slapped or even backhanded. The teacher testifies that the student said, "You hit me," and he tried to get up out of his seat, and the teacher testifies that he grabbed his elbow or his arm by the shoulder area and made him sit down. The teacher testifies that he returned to his desk and left the student alone, when the student testifies that the teacher actually blocked the doorway so he couldn't leave the classroom. The teacher was tried for corporal punishment and was found guilty, and he was suspended from his duties as a teacher. Reactive measures. The teacher was frustrated. The kids were causing distraction. When the teacher kept them after class, they continued to be disrespectful, and the teacher grabbed the student's arm to get his attention, just out of frustration and trying to show the student that he was really serious about talking to him after class. But instead, proactive measures. The teacher in this case should remain calm and handle discipline procedures without physically touching the student. The student wants us to get escalated. They want to see us blow up and either say things we shouldn't, or in this case, touch a student when we shouldn't. And instead, the teacher let the student get the best of him, and instead, he needs to remain calm and realize he is the adult in the situation, and the student does not need to get the best of him for showing disrespect. Professional ethics: the only time it is okay to touch a student during an escalated situation is when the student is causing harm to himself or others. And at this time, the teacher should use the effective and safe methods of physically restraining or removing a student from the situation. I have had the MANT training, and the MANT training teaches us how to properly restrain a kid so that they are not harming themselves or others, or maybe properly removing a kid from a bad situation. Next court case is a case of search and seizure in the Safford Unified School District versus Reading. In this case, an 8-year-old girl was strip searched by school officials because they had received a tip by another student that she had ibuprofen on her, and carrying medication on your person is a violation of the school policy. So consequently, the students' parents filed suit against the school district and school officials for improperly using search and seizure, or for unreasonable search, and that her search and seizure had been violated. The district court and the U.S. Court of Appeals actually dismissed this case, but then in a rehearing before the entire court, the Court of Appeals held that the student's right to be free of unreasonable search and seizure was violated. It reasoned that the strip search was not justified. So reactive measures: the school personnel stripped down an 8-year-old female in search of ibuprofen. The strip search was performed just after another student had tattled that she had ibuprofen in her underwear. Proactive measures: it is illegal in my school for a student to have any medication, including ibuprofen, Tylenol, and that sort of thing. However, I do not understand performing a strip search on an 8-year-old girl. Instead, I would suggest the school nurse ask the girl if she had the medication, and then follow up with a phone call to the parents explaining the situation. And maybe just getting the parents on board would scare the little girl to bring such medication to school, and if she did in fact hiding it in her undergarments. Communicating with the parents. I think communication is key. If the parents don't know what you did and they don't hear it from you first, then they're going to be angry. Professional ethics: if the girl does not have a history of bringing medication to school and she is not suspicious of using the medication, then do not perform a strip search. Instead, check permanent record for alarming history. Go see what's in her file. Maybe the girl is receiving individual instruction or special services, and they have huge files of history that could tell you if this really is a problem or not. But just by going off the tip that another student gave you is not reason enough to perform a strip search. My next case is defamation. In this case, a high school senior posted a parody of his principal, copied the principal's profile picture from the school website, and posted the vulgar parody on social media. And the parody was making fun of the principal, even linking the principal to drugs and alcohol and prostitutes. The parody was viewed by many students outside the school, and even some students were able to pull it up on their computers in class. Other students started posting similar parodies and making fun of the principal, in which the principal found to be demeaning, of course. The principal contacted the police about filing defamation or harassment charges, but decided that no criminal or civil charges were going to be pursued. Instead, the school board and administrators decided or handed out the punishment of suspending the student for 10 days, placing them in an alternative education program for the remainder of the year, barred from extracurricular activities, prohibited from participating in school's graduation ceremony. And that did not obviously go over with the parents, and so they filed for all of those consequences to be rescinded, and the courts did rescind them except for the suspension. But that wasn't enough. The parents and student continued to fight the suspension, and finally they were granted their challenge and won. The student was not even suspended. So reactive measures in this case, a student posted vulgar parody, making fun of his high school principal. The student posted this parody from his personal computer at home. The administration chose to punish the student. The Third Circuit panel affirmed the student could not be punished for posting since he did it from his home, and it did not disrupt the educational process. Proactive measures in this case, the principal was obviously frustrated and embarrassed. He suggested to the school board punishment for the student, which was overturned. He was embarrassed, and he wanted something to happen to the student to teach him a lesson. Professional ethics, I believe the principal should have just visited with the students and warned them of how such a defamation could result in severe punishment. This embarrassment would be hard to withstand, but the principal and faculty need to take this opportunity to teach the students about the responsible use of technology and construct an acceptable use policy. Tort liability. Could it happen to me? Your risk is minimal if you exercise common sense and good judgment.